Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jane Hewitt and I'm the Capability Building Coordinator at Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand are part of the Info Exchange Group, a not-for-profit social enterprise that tackles the biggest social challenges through the smart and creative use of technology. And for those of you who haven't attended a webinar session with us before, Connecting Up and TechSoup facilitate an annual training calendar of online webinars, workshops, boot camps and webcons to help the social sector upskill in all things digital. And you can check out our training and education calendar coming for webinars coming up for the rest of the year on the websites. So welcome today to the webinar Cybersecurity Threats and how Microsoft 365 can help protect your most sensitive data with Conan and Alex from the IT team. And before we begin, we'll just start with a bit of housekeeping. All lines are muted, so if you have any technical issues, please type them into the questions box and I should be able to assist. Likewise, if you have any questions for Conan and Alex, please type those into the questions box and we will have a Q&A coming up at the end of today's webinar. And please note that your comments and questions won't appear to the rest of the group. And if you're on a Wi-Fi connection and have several programs open, please just close any programs that you're not using to get the best possible quality of video and audio. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a copy of the recording and the slides towards the end of today. And just before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that there is a short survey at the end of the webinar and we'd really appreciate any feedback. That's all from me. I will pass over to Conan to get things started.
Thank you very much, Jane. Yes, thank you to everyone who's attending. We do believe this is actually quite an important and reasonably topical webinar, particularly with all the increase in security noise that's happening. And it is not going to be probably the most simple webinar for us to convey all the information. So just bear with us. It's kind of a little bit of I guess, information overload type webinar, but we'll do our best to try and be as clear in certain areas about where we think the biggest level of attention is required. Now, we're going to kick off with my name's Conan, General Manager from the IT team, and I'm joined by Alex. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself, Alex?
Yep, I'm an engineer at the IT team, and yeah, security is one of the areas I really like to play in, so yeah.
So how we're going to start this is we're going to just kick things off with a couple of polls, and this allows us to get a read on the room and also understand and kind of shape a little bit of our communication and focus on the fly. So do you want to start with poll number 1, Jane, please? Which is, are you running Microsoft 365? Pretty simple. But it's actually really important for us because sometimes we're surprised by the info. Microsoft 365 and Office 365, same thing. Good. That is a good. I'm happy with that. Very good. So majority are yes, which helps. If the majority would know, this might be a problem. For those that aren't using 365, well, look, this is kind of we're taking the position of, the greatest benefit will be those attending that are using the tools because we're effectively trying to create additional security for those using 365. So it might be, depending on your understanding of security and that kind of thing, there might be a few things that are a little bit difficult to understand, but we'll do our best to explain it. Next poll, Jane. Where are you at in your Microsoft 365 journey? As I said before, Microsoft and Office 365 nowadays is the same thing, or it's now really just called Microsoft 365. Okay, well, that's good. So almost half are using more than email, SharePoint, and OneDrive, which is great. So, and there's none that aren't sure. That's even better. Very happy with that. Alex and I were talking about that. That's always, when you have too many of those, it's a bit of a worry. So yeah, great. Okay, next poll, Jane, thank you. Just a couple more, guys. which license do you have? This is sometimes a difficult question because often people are using a mix. So let's assume the majority, if you are aware. E1 or Enterprise 1 is the fully free one that you can get up to 100 or so, or 200 licenses on TechSoup. E3 is the one you have to pay a small amount for and includes Office. Business Premium is the one that you get 10 free licenses on, just in case you'd heard or were aware of that, but weren't sure of the term. Okay, so the slight majority are using E1 or E3. Interesting. Okay, oh, that's cool. And next one, Jay. Do you feel you have sufficient security in your organization? Not a trick question, just be honest. We can't trace it. Moderately. Oh, no, I'm somewhat concerned. That's good, okay. Well, it's good that no one said very much so, because that's pretty, not arrogant, but it does sort of indicate a level of overconfidence, I'd say. So that's really good. Okay, brilliant. And I think is there one more, or was that? Thank you, Jane. Has your organization fallen victim to a security breach? As, let's say, in the last 4 years, maybe 5 years. Yes, with notable impact, a good amount. Yes, but minimal impact. Also the same, approximately the same as no, never, and some not sure. That's fair. It's quite a bit of a mix. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for everyone who entered that. It gives us a really good idea of the audience, and may have also got you thinking. So, what we will hope you will take away from this webinar, which is, I should say, cybersecurity threats and how Microsoft 365 can help protect your most sensitive data. Now, I need to say at the outset that we are Microsoft 365. We're providing a special focus on Microsoft 365 Business Premium. These are the 10 free licenses you get, and it is kind of where a lot of the security functions, I guess, come into their own. So those on E1, Alex will talk a little bit later about the differences between those two and why you might want to change. But it's just bear in mind, this is an area we will be talking a lot about. So what we hope you take away, learn a bit about the possible attacks to your organization. Attack vectors is a term, but really what are the threats and how do they come in and what do they look like? Overview of the large variety of security compliance and identity features in M365, particularly the business premium plan. Take away the key essentials for your organization and ideally have a bit of a direction. We've got a little bit of a prescription or a pathway that we have, and we'd love for you to ask questions. So just a little bit about us, the IT team. It says Office 365 since that's what it was, but since our inception in 2011, we have done a fair amount of Office 365, now Microsoft 365. We're a managed services company. We perform IT support and manage organizations' IT, and lots of not-for-profit customers. So the importance of security. All right, so nowadays, obviously, it's kind of obvious that security is important, but why? The attacks are increasing in frequency. The attacks of various sources, and they are increasing in sophistication. They're getting better with the language, not so obvious to spot, and sometimes very, very, very sophisticated. And that's because in the last 10 years, there's been money associated with them, whereas 20 years ago, it was more just for reputation and destruction. So once money becomes a factor, then people tend to get better at things. The expectations are rising. So if you think about your organizations, particularly the NGO market, which is the next point as well, the 20 years ago, if there was a little bit of a data leak, potentially it might have been not a huge surprise, but now in both New Zealand and Australia, the expectations and potentially the controls and contracts, and the awarding of contracts or revoking of contracts are starting to be more revolving more around security. So with the NGOs highly sensitive data, this is a key thing. We always used to say and find that 10 years ago it would be the commercial organizations that would focus heavily on security, and the NGOs, particularly the ones that weren't large, tended to be very blasé about it because they just didn't have the money. And now it needs to be the other way around. The commercial organizations don't have as much to lose compared with NGOs, not-for-profits, and government departments. And of course, ransomware and financial threats are becoming more of a factor and can be very devastating. So, historical concerns. This is just touching on, I'm sort of using the 10 years ago thing. It's kind of 2000 to 2010 on the internet, with IT. Where were the concerns? Maybe 2012. So the number one concern was generally the organization being prevented from operating. So businesses are always worried about losing a day and potentially losing some data. I'm not talking about loss of data from the point of view of it's being leaked, but just being deleted. So that was often the greatest concern, loss of productivity. Reputational damage was the next one. We don't want everyone to know that we made some poor decisions around our security. Number 3, business secrets or finances being leaked out, IP, that kind of thing. And then obviously people seeing your financial information. Number 4, and this is sort of, if you're thinking more than 10 years ago, say 20 years ago, the idea of money being stolen out of a bank account was, in the movies, but it wasn't very common with security breaches. Usually they were blanket sort of hackers just sending out viruses to cause destruction. Number 4 would be customer personal private data being leaked. Number 5, accidental leaking of sensitive data, leaving a pen drive around or a floppy drive, and leaking that kind of information. And number 6 would be the intentional extraction and leaking of sensitive data, i.e. a rogue staff member leaking data out. What I'd suggest that it now is these bottom 3 are now at the top. It's been rotated. Some people, particularly those in New Zealand, will know that there's a health board up north. Them being out of operation for a day is a big deal, but all the data being leaked out and being accessible, all the private data, is going to be the thing that causes problems for years to come. So this is just the concerns are starting to be flipped, which is a good thing because personal data being leaked out is more concerning than people not being able to operate for a day. So just to give you an idea of the classes of protection or probably the areas of of concern. So continuity, as I said before, security protection intended to prevent lost productivity. Then there's, which can include ransoms. Then there's the data privacy and security, which is, using security to prevent data from being extracted by third parties. And the last one is traversal and exfiltration protection, which is preventing unintentional and intentional data leaks from the inside. And we'll go into that. And a lot of the tools that we're talking about, the functions, they touch one or two of those, but M365 Business Premium covers all of them, which is critical. So the types of attacks, that was supposed to nicely transition one after the other, but anyway, phishing. So an attacker targets your employees or your colleagues by email or other unsafe links or websites. So that's a traditional phishing, and this is the most common and generally the most impactful at the moment, given how regular the impact's happening, and the most successful type of attack. And I've got a demonstration of phishing just in case those that are a little bit uncertain about what we're talking about. Spear phishing. It's the same type of thing as phishing, but it's targeted. So it's a bit more common when they're targeting your CFO or financial controller or CEO. So it's a little bit more plausible and and usually they're using a little bit of data, perhaps found on LinkedIn or something like that. Brute force, so the attacker is trying a large list of passwords to an account, something like 365 or your financial system, banks perhaps. Now, to critically, brute forces, sometimes they're leaked passwords. So you may have leaked passwords that have been obtained from a different hack, maybe a public thing, that are being leaked, and the brute force is using those targets. And that's got a slightly different terminology, but we're bundling it in at the moment. Devices being compromised. So malware on a device, your kind of traditional stuff, but also ransomware without consent, things being installed somehow. Sometimes phishing leads to compromised devices, but not always. And lost or stolen device. So this is the intentional unintended access to a device. So you could lose it, someone could steal it. It could be, corporate espionage, or it could just be you lose some data and the wrong person gets hold of it. So those are obviously, there's more, but these are the key ones, and these are the key ones that Microsoft 365 attempts to prevent and provide protection from. So this is just to give you an idea of a common phishing, I guess, case. This email here is not legitimate, but it looks pretty good. The key thing is they are trying to, these phishers, if you'd call them that, they are trying to now use something that you're going to see, and you probably see often, because sometimes the poor way Microsoft do its notifications, you might be seeing it frequently, and so you're going to have your guard down. But if you click on update payment information or the custom portal, it's going to go to a page that looks pretty legit, but isn't legit. Now, this egg alones, don't write this down, because they're not always going to be something like that. It's going to be pretty random. But you could look at that page and just type in, and most of the time, the reason why people fall for these is they're not paying attention, because why would you? Because this is something you do often. So once you enter your password, they have it. Ideally, you enter it wrong, but what it'll just say is it'll keep saying password failed, and you'll keep entering it, and they'll probably get the right one. And then they have your password. What they do then, and this is broad, but just to give you an idea what commonly happens, and I want to say this because there is some people that don't realize just how devastating this can be. They have your password, often in an automated way. They will then log into your 365, and then there'll be a tool that scans or pulls data down somewhere, but scans everyone you've ever emailed, or through your contact lists. Even if you're not managing your contact list, there is a contact list, and then pushes that same address email out to your contacts, or they will send it out as you, which is even more powerful. Use a different one. But once they get access, it starts a chain sending on to your people. And if you're sending on to them with something that's a bit different, which might be open this SharePoint link or something else, people are more likely to fall for it than something like this. But they're going to send it out, and then they're going to get a hold of your contacts. What is very common, we've found, is people go, oh no, that's really embarrassing, that's horrendous, I'll reset my password, apologize to my contact list, and then move on. What people don't realize is they've gotten everything, potentially. Now, it depends what their motives are, but they have usually gotten everything in your emails, they've gotten everything in your OneDrive and SharePoint, and potentially they've taken your username and password and tried to access other websites, banking, Xero, the accounting systems, whatever else. They'll also sometimes put in rules in your email to forward on particular things to different addresses, like maybe bank statements or anything, to try and get information. There's a lot that happens, and so sometimes people reset their password and just go, oh, whoopsie, that wasn't too bad, it was just a bit embarrassing. But what they don't realize is sometimes there's serious damage been done. The other thing is they'll upload your username and password to the dark web, or sell it, and then you'll become a target effectively, and your organization will become a target. So just an idea about how serious this is, where people don't realize it is. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, just to give an example as well of what happens if they do get into your mailbox. They'll be looking for things like invoices, they'll be looking for payments, they'll pretty much search through and look for the word password inside your emails. They manage to get like an invoice from a customer, or maybe you're sending them out. They'll, and I've seen this happen, they'll modify an invoice, change the bank account number that it's going to be paid into, and then send it to someone else that you know, maybe from your account. Maybe they'll just spoof the address, we'll get to that a bit later, and then they'll make rules in the mailbox that they've managed to hack to make sure that the person that's seeing the reply saying, yep, I paid that money, never gets that email. So they can be taking money for a few months until the business like, we're not getting paid anymore from this supplier or this customer. Yeah, so that's just one example of how dangerous it can be. And they can hold on to that kind of data for years and then do it when the hack has long been forgotten. So
yeah. An example is we had a customer contact or a potential customer contact us and say, my IT company can't seem to find out why I'm not receiving an email. And for about a year, he couldn't get an email from his bank. For some reason, it just wouldn't come through. So he just told him to send to his wife. We got in and we realized he'd had a phishing attack a year ago, and they'd put in a rule that forwarded anything from BNZ, Westpac, ASB, probably the equivalent of the Australian banks as well, to an account. And so for the last however long, all of those, and deleted them from his account, so he wasn't seeing them. And they were using that information somehow. They didn't lose any money, but the plan would have been to deprive them of money somehow. So it just gives you. Fortunately, we took them on and fixed that. But that's the type of thing that can happen. And I'm not saying if you aren't missing email, that means you're fine. If you have had a phishing attack and you just reset your password, you may, and thought it was okay, then you may need to reconsider that. Just going back to the spear phishing, an example we see is similarly to what we talked about before, where people are receiving emails from unexpected addresses or people. Often they'll register a domain of a company that's spelt a little bit differently to someone you're dealing with. Maybe you've got a vendor, and then you'll get an email that looks very legit, and there's just a tiny address change. And this catches people. We've seen it catch them off guard a lot. And that's usually when they're looking to extract lots of money, and they do it. Okay, so just continuing on. Just going to talk about the 365 plans. So this is American dollars from the TechSoup website, but it just gives you an idea. So obviously a lot of people are using the E1 plans, which are free and not listed here. Business Basic is also free. Business Standard is like Business Basic, but includes Office software. That is $3 a month US. Business Premium, first 10 licenses free, and then $5 per month. This is the one that we would recommend you attempt to gravitate towards, unless you want to go for that one. But let's just assume you don't. So, because it's a bit pricey, but this is an ideal one, and it's it's what we're predominantly going to be talking about today. If you've got 10 or less staff, it's a no-brainer. It's free, you get everything, and you've got a lot of extra functionality. If you're running E3, we'd seriously consider you look at this. Core services and M365. So this is kind of the assumptions. We're not going to go into Microsoft 365 and its features in detail, but the most common thing that people are using in 365, most common functions are Exchange Online, email, the Office software, kind of a bit of a no-brainer, and SharePoint and OneDrive for document storage. If you don't have your documents in SharePoint and OneDrive, we do suggest you do consider it. It does work, and once you've got those services in there, your organization, is doing quite well. There's also Azure and Intune for authentication, and we're going to go into a bit more detail. But often, depending on the application you have, you can run your majority of your data, majority of your systems out of these tools. There's also things like Teams, but I'm just focusing on these because this is really where the storage of your data is. So we're kind of working on the basis with this rest of this presentation that we're not assuming that everyone has this, but if you have if you're running this system, particularly like this, then what we're going to show you is a really likely ideal progression for you with trying to secure all of the things that are in this. That's the assumptions there. So where you may have a file server, you may be planning to do this, you may be questioning whether that's a good idea. There's some other webinars we've done on SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams, but if we just assume that this is either your goal or you're already in this using these tools and potentially others, then this all applies, what we're going to show you. So just very quickly, some priorities for you. So we're not going to touch on this, but we felt it's important to showcase this. This is something we have mocked up, and it's kind of let's just say, these are the segments that we're going to be talking about, not just these though, some more. And it's to give you an idea of how we see, I guess, the priority or ranking for a common organization. So we're not going to spend any time on this. We're going to come back to it at the end, but just to give you an idea that we will have this for you at the end and talk through it. So security, compliance, and identity. We've broken all of the features we're going to talk about up into those 3 segments. Some of them we're going to dive deeper on, but really it's these 3. So what is the difference between them? Because Microsoft does differentiate. We called this webinar security, but really it's not just about security. If I was to use an analogy, security is, if you've got a building, your office, security is the perimeter protection. It's your locks on your doors. It's your cameras on your the side of your walls. It's your pin pads, swipe cards, that kind of thing. Compliance is your rules and processes. What can you take in and out of the building? What should you send? How should you receive people into the building? That kind of thing. And identity is, the authenticity of the people and their credentials that are interacting with you. Who do you let in? How do you check them, sort of? But are they the right person? Are they who they say they are? These are 3 areas that Microsoft do differentiate. Identity sort of falls into both of them, to be fair, but we're going to break them up into that. And they are very different, because compliance is not essential for stopping attackers, but it can be very critical for letting the wrong thing go out of your organization, or at least making people aware of what's happening. So yeah. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah,
Anything
no, perfect. Thanks for that. Just adding to identity there, the users normally are the weakest link in any organization. A lot of those attacks that Conan showed in demo earlier were all towards identity. They're all towards people, because they realize that computers will do what that you tell them to do, but users you can manipulate. That's
right. And something I forgot to mention earlier is, we've been in IT for a long time, some longer than others. And back when I started in IT, malware, viruses were everything, right? And then it became ransomware. Viruses aren't really a big deal in 2021. They are still a factor, but people aren't making them, because it's phishing and ransomware. And ransomware is usually because of phishing. So we will talk about those, and it is important to protect against them, but the world has moved on. If you've got an antivirus product on your computer, that is probably going to protect you against 1% of the attacks. So we provide them, but we don't really believe they're nearly as important as other types of protection, just to give you an idea. Okay.
Thanks for that. Yeah. So just looking at that first category, security, in the business premium license, here's a few things that it offers, and we'll go into some of these in a bit more detail, but I'll quickly run through them now. So we've got the 3 defenders. So Defender Firewall. A firewall is all about restricting what network traffic can get to devices. So this is important. By default, users can just turn it on and off. So 365 Business Premium gives you ways that you can stop that from happening. Exploit Guard, that module is all about toughening up the security on each individual computer to stop it from being hacked. Credential Guard is much like that, stops hackers being able to get passwords off a computer should they manage to get onto them. BitLocker, all about encryption, stopping people or hackers or thieves from being able to read data off a stolen computer. Thieves. Windows Information Protection, and this one's an interesting one. These days, with lots more people working from home or using their own personal devices, it's important to be able to predict company data from accidentally being leaked out of the organization, unintentionally. It's not really designed to protect against malicious stealing of information, but it is designed to stop you from accidentally having important data in your clipboard and then pasting it as a tweet, because you're doing both personal and corporate things on the same device. And then Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which used to be called Advanced Threat Protection, which is all about email security, stopping bad links, stopping phishing, impersonation, all that sort of thing. Thanks for that. Compliance. So this is keeping track and protecting your data. So we've got Azure Information Protection, which is categorizing and classifying what can happen to data and when, by putting labels on it. We've got data loss prevention, DLP, for emails and files, just making sure that you can keep track of what's happening to that sensitive data from Azure Information Protection. Sensitivity labels are part of Azure Information Protection, and also retention labels are as well. That's classifying whether data is important or not, and how long you want to keep it if it's deleted, or when you want to delete it. We'll get into a bit more detail of that later on. Litigation hold, which is to stop email from being deleted, especially if there's litigation going on, and message encryption, which is to ensure that the only person that reads the email is the person that's been sent to.
These four here, we kind of group them, but they are very important, and we're going to spend a bit of time on them later. Just FYI.
Yeah, and lastly, the identity. So this is all about protecting that user. One of the key components of the Business Premium license is Azure Active Directory Premium. We'll get into a bit more detail on that in a minute, but that's all about like keeping a list of what users you've got and making sure that when they're signing into services and devices that they are who they are. On-prem AD synced for SSO, so this is if you've still got an old server sitting in the corner of your organization, is making sure that the users that are on that server match the users that are accessing your cloud apps and Microsoft 365. Cloud App Security Discovery. This is a tool that Microsoft has put out there so you can discover which applications your staff are using. And that, like, are they using Dropbox? Are they using Facebook? I think there's a list of about 16,000 that Microsoft have in that catalog to be able to see. And you may discover that your company's staff are using applications that you don't know about or maybe haven't approved. We've got MFA, this is hot topic at the moment, multi-factor authentication. So that's adding extra layers of checking who a user is when they're trying to sign in. So factor 1, password, factor 2, yeah, we'll get into that in a bit more coming up. Conditional access is all around making more detailed policies on who can access what from where, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. And finally, Windows Hello for Business. This is all part of Microsoft's big push to get away from passwords. Passwords are currently the thing that gets breached the most. If you're not using passwords, you can't really get them breached. So this will be things like using PINs or fingerprints or your face to unlock your device, which is actually more secure than using a password, especially if it's a long password that has to be reset frequently. Commonly, people just keep reusing the same passwords everywhere. Windows Hello for Business is trying to move away from that by having one-off pins and your face and your fingerprint, which can't really easily be stolen.
And pins are great, I tell you. Like it saves so much time.
Yeah.
So that's, as I said, a little bit of information overload. There are a lot of features in 365, but all plans. And this is kind of us highlighting the ones of note that we've just done. But we're now going to drill into the particular ones within those sort of 20 or so features we've just highlighted that we think are of special interest. So we're going to go Intune, MFA, Defender for 365, bit locker, Defender, Exploit Guard, and Credential Guard. We kind of bundle those together. Litigation hold and DLP, with special attention to MFA, and I've missed one actually, which is conditional access, MFA, DLP, and conditional access. So do you want to go for it, Alex?
Yeah. So to get started, especially moving away from a server world into a more cloud-oriented world. So a lot of organizations are getting rid of the server sitting in the corner of the organization and moving to fully cloud worlds. So Intune, you may or may not have heard it, is a Microsoft technology that lets you manage all your devices within your organization. So this can be laptops, tablets, phones, anything, any device that users use that's owned by an organization. And what Intune lets you do is manage what applications are installed to your programs, what configurations are installed, so like setting settings on those machines, and that's very important for security, is knowing which settings are set on those machines, and managing compliance of those devices, making sure that the devices only have what you think have on them and meet the minimum requirements, so the minimum security settings. And yeah, that's what Intune does. It's basically keeping a tight rein on your devices.
Yeah, group policy obviously was something that was done back in the day. Yeah, so this is for the
This is kind of the modern version of managing devices within an organization.
And modern. Very good.
So just quickly, multi-factor authentication is probably something that you've heard of before. You may already be using it. We probably should have asked it at the beginning.
Yeah, we should have.
But it adds a layer of protection to the sign-in to cloud or any service really. So the first factor would be a password, and a multiple factor is anything above and beyond that. So the ones that Microsoft 365 supports are phone calls and SMS messages, or getting an app code on your phone, or maybe a push notification, so a pop-up on your phone saying, do you approve the sign-in? In terms of things that you could do right now today, we can't stress enough how important it is to get MFA set up.
Yes.
Yeah, if passwords get leaked, this is basically a golden defense to that.
Yeah, because when I was talking before about the phishing attempt, effectively, if you enter your password, it's not like it's the perfect situation because they still have your password, but they won't be able to get into 365 because when they log in successfully with your password, or they enter your password successfully, you will then have to verify that authentication. Now, we do understand that MFA isn't completely, invulnerable, but it is pretty good. I would say one thing: if you haven't heard of MFA and you do have your email with a company like Gmail or Office 365, you should investigate this and implement it as soon as you can. If you have been told about it and decided you didn't want to do it without a very, very strong reason, you need to have a really long, good, hard look at yourself, because this is the thing that will prevent 90% of breaches that could occur. And it can be a little bit annoying, but that's not really a reason not to do it, because I'm sure when people started using passwords in the 90s, they were a little bit annoying too. You do get used to it. Your staff will get used to it, and I'm sure that the Waikato District Health Board or whatever it is up north, I'm sure they wish. I expect that they didn't have MFA. I'm not certain because they haven't released it, but I expect if they had MFA, that breach may not have occurred. So really, please ask questions on this, and feel free to give us your reasons why you can't have it. But this is just critical. Anything to add, Alex?
Nope, that's perfect.
Cool.
So next up, security. Microsoft Defender for Office 365, Plan 1. That's what P1 means. And this is a license that you automatically get when you sign up with Business Premium. And it's made up of 4 technologies. First one is safe links, and there's a picture there on the right, which any link that's sent to you in an email gets rewritten with Microsoft Safe Links protection. So Microsoft checks that link against a list of known bad links, and if it's got something bad, it will make sure the email never gets to you or make the link unclickable. But also, after the email has been delivered, if the link then gets detected as being dodgy, like a few hours after it's been delivered, they can now shut that link down because they've rewritten every link in the email to one of the Microsoft ones. Yeah, we've got Microsoft Safe Attachments for SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams Exchange. So this is any document that's sent to you through any of those methods. Before it gets to you, it scans each of the documents, and it will actually deliver the email first and then deliver the attachment after it's checked it. And it's basically checking it against a list of known threats, and if it's not on that list, it does a little bit more scanning. It actually runs it through some machine learning, some AI that like execute or open the document, see if it does anything untowards. If it does, it blocks it. If it doesn't, it lets it through, and that's even if it's not a known threat. Anti-phishing is a very, very powerful thing. It lets you set up names to email addresses. It basically stops people from using the attacks that Conan was talking about earlier, where they have a domain that's very similar, or they've got a different email address with the same name. It picks up on that. And real-time detections is basically a dashboard that lets you go in and have a look and see what's happening real time in your organization. So cool. I would highly recommend you, if you've got this, put it in. It's going to make your email security go from 5 to 10 very, very quickly.
heard of the term, or you believe you have something called ATP, this was the previous name that this went by.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next up for security, we've got something called BitLocker. So this is if your device has been stolen. This encrypts the hard drive. So even if it's stolen, they try taking the hard drive out of the laptop to get some data off it, they won't be able to. It's got military grade encryption on it. It is that good. And one of the common worries that people have with like having encryption is, oh, what happens if something goes wrong and I get locked out and the encryption's so good I can't get back into it. Well, the good thing is BitLocker, with using Intune, which we talked about earlier, has got a backup recovery key, so you can actually unlock that drive. And that backup recovery key is actually stored in Microsoft 365, so you can go onto a web page and grab the key and then go back into it. The person stealing the drive, of course, won't be able to get the recovery key. So yeah, if you've got laptops floating around that don't have encrypted hard drives, it's a bit of a worry. So definitely,
it's very easy to get access to it. You know, you don't need your password to log into the machine. You just take the hard drive out and plug it in somewhere else.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of technologies that comes with Business Premium that is designed to basically improve the security of the physical devices, and these are quite complicated. So I'll just quickly go through them. They're very technical. So we've got attack surface reduction, which is a bunch of things that can be done to like lock down various programs to stop scripts from running and stopping certain types of malware, which are not turned on by default, but maybe should be in a lot of enterprises because they can make things work a little bit more difficult. Network protection is all about stopping web-based threats by blocking like web pages and that kind of thing. So it intercepts your web access or your web browsing and will stop that from happening. Controlled folder access is locking down certain parts in the computer to stop any other process from writing to it. So you can lock down some folders and stop like ransomware from being able to write to that. So if you did that and said only Word can write to this folder, Microsoft Word, nothing else, and that would stop ransomware from being able to encrypt those files. Exploit protection is just some more complicated stuff to stop more complicated threats. And lastly, credential guard is if some malware does get onto a machine, it makes it very hard for them to lift any saved passwords on that device off the device. It's actually really easy if you don't have credential guard for hackers to be able to steal all the passwords saved on the device. Yep. Really quickly on this one, because it's very technical, we've got Windows Microsoft Defender Firewall. This is basically just to lock down what people can open up on their machines and maybe set up rules that are consistent across the organization. So a lot of people will open up file sharing on their laptop if they want to get a file off over a network. This makes sure that you can restrict that from happening.
Just control over the existing firewall.
If you're at public Wi-Fi, you've got your open file sharing port open. It means anyone on that public Wi-Fi could grab files off that computer. This stops that from happening. Yep. All right, so over to identity. If you've currently got a server sitting in the corner, you're probably aware of something called Active Directory, which is what every computer is joined onto something called a domain. And that makes sure that you can validate who logs into that computer or doesn't. But with the move up to the cloud, they needed a replacement, and that's what Azure AD Workplace Join is. And with the Business Premium one, you get something called Active Directory or Azure Active Directory Premium, which is slightly better than the basis. So this is all about authenticating who can log into devices, and it checks on the internet and the cloud. Can Joe Bloggs sign into this computer? Yes, he can. So
with your 365 credentials as well.
Yeah, so it's the same credentials being used in 365 as is being used to log into the physical device. Now, with any Azure subscription, you get a basic version of that and lets you sign into devices, but that's about it. The premium version adds a few more things. Some useful features is custom banned password lists. So you can basically say, we know that our organization used to use this generic password for a lot of things. We're going to set that as a banned password so no one can ever use that password again. And also self-service password reset, change, and unlock. So a lot of the times the users will lock themselves out, and self-service password reset lets them reset that themselves.
Which is pretty critical, to be fair, isn't it? Like, it's kind of the one where if you don't have that, you are a little bit stifled.
Yeah. The alternative to having any kind of login system like this is just have local accounts that are not managed on any device. And it's trivially easy to get into a machine that's got a local account on. The passwords basically mean nothing.
Yeah, it's sectionally. If you're currently logging in with an account that isn't related to your Office 365, it isn't related to a server in your office, then if someone gets hold of that machine, it's so easy to take that password off. It might as well not even. Well, just any 14-year-old that knows how to Google break passwords can get into it, or 12-year-old.
So conditional access, and this relates heavily back to multi-factor authenticator, but it's kind of the killer app, I guess, of Azure Active Directory and Microsoft 365. It lets you have a whole bunch of different signals, so different users, different devices, applications, and real-time risks in this diagram. And it lines up to what they're trying to get to. So what is this user and this device trying to get to, and where are they trying to get to it from in any login attempt? And then you can basically set different conditions to whether or not you grant that or not. So yes, we'll give you access, but you've got to do X, Y, Z. And I think if we go to the next slide, there's a video of walking through. This is what it actually looks like in the back end. So this is technical, but kind of if you just step through it with your mouse, you can. So it's making a new policy. So first of all, you decide who's the policy going to apply to. So you can select specific users in your organization or everyone. So you might say everyone in the organization this is going to apply to. Just skip forward a little bit more, please. What's it going to apply to? So is this going to apply to all cloud apps, or is it only going to apply to email? So maybe do we want to apply this to logging into our bank, or do we want to apply this to logging into our financial software? So you can choose that there. And then a little bit more.
Sorry, let's just plan up.
Yep, conditions. And this is where is the user accessing from? Are they accessing from New Zealand, Australia? Are they accessing from Iran? Are they using an Android phone? Are they using a Mac? Or are they using Windows? And what program are they trying to access from? Are they trying to access from Outlook, or web browser, or some other software? Yeah, skip forward there, please.
So sorry, keep going.
So those are all signals. Those are all saying what and from where is trying to access something, and what are they trying to access. And then you can do different things. So let's say someone's logging in from the Middle East. You could just go block access, or China or Russia. No one should be accessing from there. So you just set up a policy. If anyone's trying to log in from those locations, just block the access. Or you might say, okay, overseas UK is okay, but we're going to require them to have multi-factor authentication, and they've got to be using a company device to be able to sign in. And that can differ per app. So some apps may be more secure than others. Your financial software may have a higher barrier to entry than just signing into the computer, for instance. So that's what conditional access is all about.
So what would be Alex, a common kind of conditional access? Would it be that we'd see? Would it be location, forces MFA? What about device? If you're using a company device that authenticates with Azure AD, then you're allowed access, but if you're not, then you're blocked. That would be quite extreme, but what's some other examples?
So if you've got some really, if you wanted to stop, if you know that anyone who's accessing your organization data, that maybe not the most critical stuff, but just 90% of it, and is accessing it from the office, they're probably okay. Then maybe you could look at doing a policy where you don't apply MFA in that scenario, and you do if they're anywhere other than in the office. Yep. Or maybe, if there is something really sensitive, you could make sure that the person's device has got the right security software and meets all the policies that your company set out before.
Yeah, key sensitive data. You might say they have to be in New Zealand. They have to be working from a company managed device that is, and even say, and that device has to be up to date and have antivirus running, which can cause issues because sometimes there'll be a problem with it. But if you thought about it, has to be company device, has to be located in Australia or located in New Zealand. That's pretty powerful if you're wanting to secure against some pretty critical data. And it's probably a smart way to think about it, because you're just taking away the possibility of those other sort of situations. Yeah. All right. Next one, compliance.
Yep, so message encryption basic. So this also comes with Microsoft Business Premium. This is all about sending, making sure the person who receives the email is the person you sent it to. So if you're sending to another 365, it just is transparent. You don't see the encryption. You receive the email because Microsoft knows internally whether you are the right email address. But it also works sending to Gmail, Yahoo, or Outlook, or anything else. If you send an email there and you've got encryption turned on, it gives them the link. They've got to verify that they own the email address. It sends them a passcode to their email address, and they type that in, and then they get to see the email on the web page. So if you've got something insensitive and you don't really want it forwarded on, you want just that person to be able to read it, this is how you can do it. Another one that you may have heard of before, litigation hold. This makes it so when a user deletes an email from the deleted mailbox or manipulates their email, it doesn't actually delete. It looks to the user that it has been deleted, but in reality, it's still there. So very, very powerful.
Yeah, just keeps everything, doesn't it? Kind of freezes it just in case.
Yeah, just in case. Now, big one, compliance, data loss prevention, and this is very, very useful, and I doubt many people are using it. So it's all about detecting sensitive content as it's used throughout your organization and making sure that it doesn't get leaked. So there's a few different things you can, policies you can set up within data loss prevention to act on various types of data. You can either block it, or you can warn the user that they're going to be leaking information or not following policies if they do it, or you can notify someone in your organization that someone has sent some data that maybe they shouldn't have, or maybe someone needs to know that they've done that. So I think we've got a quick demo on the next, do we?
We do, but I think it's the
Okay.
next one. So
okay, sorry. So for instance, this next demo coming up is going to be looking at credit card data. So someone's attempting to email someone some credit cards, which is a silly idea, because if the email account gets compromised or the person you're sending it to gets compromised, then that credit card number gets taken with it. There's other types of sensitive information you might have, like driver's license, bank account numbers, health identifiers. NGOs have a lot of this personal data that you really don't want getting out. And sensitive info types is a way of locking down what that data is. And all these ones listed here are built into Microsoft 365, ready to go. But you can also add custom ones if you work in a field that has some sensitive information that of a particular number or something, like invoice number or something. Yeah. So here's a quick demo if you just want to play. So in this demo, someone's trying to send someone some credit card information. So they're writing credit card info, and they're going to type out the number. You probably jump here just a little bit. Here we go, and you'll see immediately at the top there, it comes up with a policy tip saying you're not allowed to send credit card information out of the organization. But you'll see there is a button there that says override.
Which we'll come back to in a minute. So it's just showing the examples where if it isn't a correct credit card number, it's smart enough to kind of remove that, because obviously it knows that number one can't start a credit card number. But then if you change it back, it's going to pop back up.
Yeah. So it is quite smart. So it knows, it's got different rules that let it to know what is a credit card. For instance, is CVV written nearby, or expiry date written near the right number of the right length? It's probably a credit card number.
Yeah, we're not saying it's perfect, but it's smart. Now, critically here, as you can see, you can override it, which is probably understandable, because you don't want these type of things, particularly when you're trying to work them out, to completely stop people from doing something, from working, because it could be the odd false positive. But this is great for notification, right? Continue, Alex. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, so if it's wrong, of course, it lets you send it anyway. Whoops, and the business justification, of course, is logged. So, maybe it's too hard to phone them and give them the number of the phone. May not be a good justification, but anyway.
So if you think about the fact that you could have a policy where you don't want information, you might be an NGO that works with social services or health ministries. You may decide that information shouldn't be going to someone outside of your email domain and a couple of other email domains that you work with. You don't necessarily want to block it, because they might need to send it, but you at least want to know about it. And so you could flag it that a key person, manager or something, receives a notification or that person has to verify it. It's a strong way of stopping that stuff from getting out. And it applies to Teams as well, doesn't it, Alex?
Yeah, I just tried
documents.
earlier with credit card information. It blocks Teams messages from being sent as well. Second part of those rules, so it's, you can use data loss prevention rules on those sensitive information types, but you can also classify your own data with something called sensitivity labels. And we've got a little picture on the left there of Excel showing you what it looks like when you're in an Office program. But a sensitivity label is a way of telling Microsoft 365 what is this data. And here's just some examples. You can make up as many different sensitivity labels as you want, but here are just some demo ones. So public, you can share it externally freely. There's not going to be any restrictions on it, all the way up to highly confidential. And then you can set data loss policies saying that maybe highly confidential data shouldn't be emailed, and have a pop-up on the email saying that's a highly confidential piece of data. You can also add watermarks and that kind of thing to the documents themselves. So if you've ever seen anything military and it's got top secret, it's probably they're using a very similar system to this.
Yeah. But yeah, you can imagine that you could have a lot of documents default to general, but highly confidential for things that you really don't want to go out of the organization, financial reports, board docs, something like that.
Yeah. Very similar to sensitivity labels, but slightly different, is retention labels, which is all about labeling how long do you need to keep a record for. So you can say we need to keep this record for 7 years and then delete it, which is one option, or we need to keep this indefinitely. So you are saying this is financial information, or this is a customer records. Our policies or our government contract states we've got to keep this for 15 years. And you can also stop it. So if someone tries deleting it, it won't be deleted. It says, no, this is customer records. We need to wait it. Yeah.
Just very quickly on this, Alex.
Yeah, very quickly. So this is the process for setting up labels. So administrator IT creates a label. The end user who's working on the document adds the label, and then Office 365 rules enforce what happens to that.
Yeah. So this is just a bit of a doc that we created that it's very easy to say, hey, we want to retain this folder, but there's actually a bit of work to understanding how you're going to do it. Is it a policy? How long? Who are we restricting it to, and that kind of thing. So just very quickly, kind of the prescription, or how we would call it. Excuse the watermark there. That's an error. Got the wrong doc, but this is our document. So if you're running Business Basic, or you're just a normal organization, you might have Windows updates, you might have Exchange Online Protection and Windows Defender running, or equivalent products. That's a good start. Well, it's not a great start, but it is a start. Then ideally you have MFA. That is a key thing. That should be the first step, and you can do that on the Business Basic license. Getting a bit more advanced, a lot of the products we talked about today, Defender for 365, also ATP. Then we've got the Azure AD Workplace Join, which is connecting your computer, your workstations, your laptops, desktops to Azure with your 365 account. BitLocker to protect the machine, and then conditional access, which these kind of all tie together and are configured with Intune. So that you need Intune to really implement these, but they all tie together. And this is a pretty big step, but we do believe it is an important one. Data loss protection or prevention, basic, which is what we've shown you today. Restricting. So we talk about those retention labels, kind of classifying that in the data loss prevention bracket. Then MDM, which is something we haven't shown today, which is applying some restrictions to your mobile devices. Moving further, Defender Firewall and Exploit, which is possible with the premium license. What we haven't showed you is the things on E5, which is the next slide. This is when you're getting more advanced, and you can go further. There's probably about up to 15. There's a lot of functions in the E5 plan, but some of them that could be critical are the Defender for Identity, risky sign-ins, and the advanced version of data loss prevention, which is very interesting and has a lot of automation. But if you were to look for, okay, where do we start? Well, here, and then possibly traverse. You could be different. This is our kind of guide point of view, and we have changed our mind on what the order is in the past, so you shouldn't follow us just blindly, but largely, hopefully this gives you an idea about where the biggest impact should start, which is, and really, I don't think it starts here. This is kind of the low water mark. It really starts here. But feel free to have a look at that. That's hopefully give you a guide if you're trying to figure out where to start or where to go. Right, very quickly on M3, M65, E5. We're not going to talk about these, but these are some advanced functions for why you might want to do that. I'd say that if you've covered off a lot of the M365 Business Premium features and you want to go further, there are some really valuable functions in E5, but it is expensive. It's the type of thing that we as an IT company, should really have implemented and will. This is for something that I would suggest those that are really interested should have a look at in their own time. It's a doc that talks about the attack vectors, which we showed at the beginning of this, and the different protections that are potentially in place along the line. So, you've got beginning, entering, traversing, and exfiltrating. So each blue item represents a M365 feature. And so obviously we haven't shown you all of these. We've just highlighted some of them, or we've talked about pretty much all of them, but not all of them. So it's quite an interesting one, particularly for those people that are really interested in maybe the IT people in this group. Grab a hold of this when this slide goes out and have a bit of a look. Question time. Thank you very much for that, guys. We know we went through a lot of data quite quickly and we've just hit time, but we'll let you submit some questions. Any questions, Jane, I should say?
Yep, we have a couple. Sabine is asking if we'll get a copy of the presentation. Yes, you will. I'll be sending that later today. David is asking, does a Microsoft 365 e-license have all the features of Microsoft 365 Business Program?
No.
No. So the E5 does. The E5's got everything and more. The E3 is missing a few things.
I believe it has, I think you can go up to number 4. I don't know about number 5. They're not as clear, like it's got some parts of features, but largely you will kind of be able to go to about number 4, I believe, mostly. I think, and you might be other things like you can probably do MDM, so it's not a clean. This isn't built with those plans in mind. It's built in importance, but you can do some of it, but you can't go as fast. So fundamentally, Business Premium is more fully featured than the enterprise plans, although some elements of the enterprise plan are a bit more fully featured than Premium. But we'd say of the two, our preference would be Premium. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, Premium, unless you want to shell out for the E5, in which case go for that.
Yeah, which is price.
Also, the features have to be configured and used. So if you're not quite at there's no point jumping to E5 straight away if you haven't implemented anything. Just get Premium, get it up to standard, and then maybe look at the advanced stuff once you're ready. Yeah.
There is something in here where your IT company, your IT person may need to learn how to either configure or maintain some of these things. So just subscribing to the license does not turn all these on. Some of them will, but even like subscribing to Business Basic or Business Premium, if you configure email exchange, you'll get that, but this won't turn on automatically. This kind of will, but not automatically. And most of these, they need to be configured. And there's a difference between basic configuration, conditional access, and extensive. So yeah, it's not necessarily just a tick of a box or a button, but fundamentally it is there, and it's not rocket science to configure it. So that is probably trying to sit in the middle there.
Okay. Does litigation hold effectively keep mailbox contents even if the account itself gets deleted? What's the con for enabling litigation hold and enabled for all users by default?
I don't know if you can do it by default, and yes, you do have to have the correct licenses. The Business Premium comes with the correct license to do it. I don't think E1 can. I know Business Basic can't, definitely. But yes, effectively, even if the account's deleted, you use a tool called e-discovery.
The user account, not the tenancy, right?
Yeah, the user account. Yeah. If the tenancy is deleted, everything goes. You can't delete them anyway, common tenancies. They live forever. Yeah, so if the user account is deleted, it's not easy to get the data back, but it's still there. Yes.
And is there any consequence to having litigation hold?
Just the extra
Apart from the
license
money?
cost. Yeah.
Yep, there you go. And
Some companies
maybe
do
if
put
you
it on
want
for
to,
everyone.
and maybe if you want to delete stuff, you won't be able to. Well, you will, but it will stay around. So depending on what you're up to.
Yeah.
Is there, oh no, sorry, what's the percentage of those companies who are implementing the most secure ticks you presented who have fallen victim to a ransomware?
Sorry, could you repeat that question, Jane?
Basically, if a company, an organization is doing all of the security, do you know what the percentage is of those companies falling victim to a ransomware attack?
Oh, look, no, no, but I'd say that you know, there's going to be so few organisations that are doing everything. You know what I mean? And doing it well, perfectly. Look, I think you are going to, you're just going to get each of these items is kind of going to be a couple of percentage points of protection, and you're never going to get to 100, but you might be able to get to 99.8 or something like that. Really, you know, if you've got nothing, you're pretty vulnerable to something like ransomware. If you have MFA, you're probably, particularly from an email point of view, which is the most common vector, you're probably jumping up to sort of, I say 90%, but for the purposes of making this interesting, let's say 70%. And then each point here is going to be a couple of percent getting you closer. But, you know, if you think about it, a lot of these are not about trying to protect against ransomware. They're trying to stop unintentional data loss or intentional data loss. So, you know, having a staff member decide to be a real pork chop and send data to their your competitor or to the wrong person or to themselves because they've got some weird sort of thing going on, or they're trying to tell their friend about, if you're working with the justice department or criminal justice, trying to forward on some data about someone they've seen, it's going to do things like stop that. So that's less about ransomware and more about sort of protecting your data. With this here, as you can see, these layers of protection that you've got here are kind of, you know, they're not necessarily, there's a little bit of, if these fail, people are going to get through, but they're also taking into account internal people and people who've got within the organization or already within the organization getting data. So it is, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of rooms within rooms within rooms in a way. Yeah, hopefully that is not the worst answer you've had to your question, mate.
And just one final question. Is there somewhere I can go to see the feature differences between E3 and Business Premium?
Yes, Alex, you could probably pass around a link that you like to send me all the time when I'm arguing over features.
It's a PDF. I don't know if I've got a link. Yeah, yes, there is. Google is your friend in this case. Microsoft have it published. They do separate the business licenses in one part and the enterprise licenses in another part. So you'll be able to compare an E3 to an E5 and an E1, and you'll be able to compare a business basic, standard, and premium. You probably won't be able to get one that's got all 5 of them on the same sheet, but you can put both of them side by side on your screen and yeah, look at the check marks is basically the best way I can recommend to do that. There's a lot more than what we've got. There's about 45 to 50 products with the business premium and slightly more with an E5. And some of them you'll be like, I don't know what that is. So yeah.
And it is confusing, like even for us, I hate to say it, we don't know, you know, it's not as clear as, I'm not shouting about this, but it's not as clear as this, you know, it'll say retention labels plan 1 or retention labels, this is probably a bad example, but retention labels plan 2. You know, okay, what does plan 1 do? What does plan 2 do? You know, so some of it is less clear than others, but it is there. It's just sometimes it can take a little bit of research or a little bit of advice to try and determine what is needed. This document, this page here, is not something we've made for the audience here specific or only. It's also for us, because we, even as IT people in our company, do have trouble being clear about what we believe the important features are and what you can do with the different plans, and also what the importance is. Yeah.
Lovely. Penny has just sent the link through, so I've just shared that with everybody.
Good on you, Kenny.
Lovely. That is all we have time for, I'm afraid. Sorry to everybody whose questions couldn't get answered, but if you do email, the email address is up there, webinar@theittteam.co.nz. I'm sure Alex and Conan will be able to answer any quick questions.
Yep.
And thank you both very much. And thank you everybody for joining us.
No, thanks a lot. Hope everyone found it, at least something in this very detailed and extensive webinar, helpful.
Lovely, thanks guys. And everybody will be getting a copy of the recording and the slides. And if everybody could please take a couple of minutes to fill out the very short survey that will be popping up at the end of this webinar, we'd really appreciate that. Thanks everybody.
We'll do that once we fix that watermark.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Take care.